The Green Bay Packers offense can work without him. But with Christian Watson healthy, this Packers offense can soar.
You are Locked On Packers, your daily Green Bay Packers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Packers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Peter Bukowski, and I cover the Packers for The Leap, a newsletter I would love for you to subscribe to. Follow me on Twitter, Peter_Bukowski. Follow the podcast on Twitter, Locked On Packers. Like us on Facebook. Subscribe to the podcast, iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you find podcasts, you will find Locked On Packers, the number one Packers podcast on the internet, and the show for fans who know what happened. They want to know why and how. Thanks to everyone who makes Locked On Packers their first listen every day. We hope you like starting your day with us as much as we like starting our day with you. And thanks to everyone who makes Locked On Packers their first listen. It really does mean a lot to me. I also want you to become an insider and get a line directly to me. We'll text, we'll talk. I'll send exclusive content right to your phone. Let's do that. I pinned the link on my Twitter profile. It's subtext. You can find us Locked On Packers there. Become an insider today. Christian Watson changes this offense. They were good without him. There were games where they played well, where Christian Watson was not involved. But the most success that this team had offensively, when they looked their most unstoppable, he was out there. And his ability to stretch the field is unlike anything anyone else can do on this offense. There isn't someone else who can fully recreate the terror that Christian Watson engenders from a defense. Romeo Doubs can win vertically. We saw that at various points in the season, especially later in the season. They allowed him to get vertical a little bit more often, and I love that for this offense. But what Christian Watson can do is just not like what anyone else on this team can do. No one else can win vertically on the outside. Jayden Reed proved to be a far more capable speed slot receiver than I ever thought he could. And that is the same way having a tight end who can threaten the middle of the field, the seam, who can threaten vertically down the seam is an enormous weapon for your team. Having someone who can threaten the boundary is a weapon. You have Jayden Reed in the slot. You have Dontavian Wicks, who is becoming this route runner extraordinaire, second reaction kind of player. Same with Romeo Doubs. When you have Watson, the geometry of the offense just makes more sense. It becomes much harder to play single high defense against this Packers team, which means more two high safety shells, which means more light boxes for Josh Jacobs and A.J. Dillon and Marshawn Lloyd. That makes everything easier. And he and Jayden Reed maybe are the only guys who can take a 10-yard throw and turn it into a 50-yard touchdown. That's pretty good. That's pretty valuable, right? And the more of those guys you can have, like San Francisco, Christian McCaffrey can do that. Brandon Ayuk can do that. Deebo Samuel can do that. George Kittle can do that. The Philadelphia Eagles, Saquon Barkley can do it. A.J. Brown can do it. Devontae Smith can do it. The Dolphins offense with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle and Devon Achane and Raheem Mostert. The more guys that you can have where you can make simple 5-yard throws and they can turn it into 50. The more guys like that you have, the more explosive your offense can be and the less consistent it needs to be in terms of staying on track, success rate, all of those things. The Packers offense in the second half was excellent by success rate, but it was also excellent creating explosives, much more than in the first half of the season. Now, they got better in basically every conceivable way in the second half. But having Christian Watson out there, someone who can legitimately draw coverage, who can draw safety help over the top, opens up the middle of the field. It opens up the opposite boundary. It opens up the run game. It affects every piece of this offense. And if you go back last year to the games where Christian Watson played at least 50% of the snaps, that only happened 8 times last year. He would have gotten over 104 targets, would have led the team in targets. When he was out there, he was their wide receiver 1 by desire. They wanted him to be that guy. Now, Love and Watson were not consistently on the same page with the deep ball. That is something that they are going to have to work on. But Watson was also not a big part of this offense in the second half when the offense took off, when Jordan Love started to hit all those deep balls. But over 17 games last year, and he was playing hurt for some of those games, and the offense was still inconsistent for some of those games, 55 catches, 827 yards, and 11 touchdowns. That'll work. That'll play. And I think if you actually gave him a full 17-game season, they would find more ways to get in the ball underneath, catch and run opportunities. He is already a red zone killer because the Packers love to go to these man beaters in the red zone where Christian Watson can just use his speed to get open. They love to scheme up things for him in the red zone. It's why he is been a touchdown machine in his career. And also, he is one of the only guys on the team that has been able to consistently turn explosive plays into touchdowns. We saw it against the Cowboys in 2022. We saw it on the touchdown against the Titans in 2022. That rookie season, he couldn't stop scoring touchdowns. And that carryover this year, 11 touchdowns, is the extrapolation. And it probably would be more than that, honestly, because they would have found a way to get him, something in the run game. They would have found a couple more opportunities deep. They probably would have connected on more than just like 50+% of the receptions. He's more than just Marquez Valdes-Scantling, but even at his worst, if he's on the field, he can affect defenses like Marquez Valdes-Scantling did. And I think we underrate that value. I mean, look, he went to the Chiefs, won 2 Super Bowls, and now is in Buffalo. He went from Aaron Rodgers to Patrick Mahomes to Josh Allen. It seems like and these are all well-run franchises. They all seem to see the value in Marquez Valdes-Scantling. When Christian Watson was coming out, some people compared him to MVS like that was some insult. Now, if you're going to trade up and use the 34th overall pick on him, yeah, that's probably not what you want. You want more than that. But the idea that is somehow a drag, someone who is at all times a threat to score a 65-yard touchdown, that's a good problem to have if that is as good as you're ever going to be. And I don't think that's as good as you're ever going to be. He is the one guy on this team, to me, that has the potential to be a dynamic, game-breaking, top 10 kind of player. Now, I think Dontavian Wicks can be really, really good. I think Jayden Reed is already really, really good. And those 3 guys fit together really, really well. But then you have the way that Romeo Doubs played at the end of last season. He seems to be the most consistent guy. There's so much on this offense, and we didn't even talk about the tight ends, didn't even talk about the running backs. But there's only one player, skill player, not quarterback, because obviously Jordan Love. But there's only one player whose play, if it's good, if he's out there, benefits everyone else. And even just his mere presence benefits everyone else. He doesn't have to be catching passes. And that is Christian Watson. So that is why he is the X factor for the season. If he is healthy, even just that, you don't even have to take a step, Christian Watson. Just be the guy that you've been the first 2 years, these sort of high volatility stretches where he's going to have 3 touchdowns in 2 games, 5 touchdowns in 3 games. And then, maybe not hear from him very much. That's fine. Because this offense is going to have some volatility in it. That's Jordan Love. That's okay. That's Matt LaFleur wanting to take a lot of deep shots. But now they have, guys who can attack in different levels of the field. If Watson is healthy, that's it. This offense can be the best in the league. We've said that. If he takes a step, then this offense is set up to be like those early 2010s Packers offenses, where it's just like every year, this is a no doubt top 5 offense as long as the guys are relatively healthy and no one is going to be able to stop them. I want to talk about, by the way, stopping them, the attitude of this team. That's next on Locked On Packers. Wouldn't it be great if you could see all your investment and retirement accounts in one place? With Yahoo Finance, you can consolidate your views with multiple accounts into one hub and access the expert analysis you need to tend to your entire portfolio with confidence. I've got a 401k. I've got an IRA. I've got investments for now. I've got a slew of different platforms and products that I use. Well, why wouldn't you want to be able to see all of that stuff in one place? When it comes to your financial future, you think you've done it all. You've saved, you've researched, you've invested. Now take those investments to the next level with Yahoo Finance. For more than 25 years, Yahoo Finance has been the brand behind every great investor. Can securely link your brokerage account for a unified view of your wealth, including 401ks and other investments. A comprehensive perspective is what sets apart great investors. And it's how Yahoo Finance ensures you have the insights to look at your wealth in its entirety. With over 90 million users each month, their real strength is helping you on your way to financial success. For comprehensive financial news and analysis, visit the brand behind every great investor, yahoofinance.com, the #1 financial destination. yahoofinance.com. That's yahoofinance.com. Keyshawn Nixon had some pretty strong words about the mindset of this team. But are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day? Have to turn down the volume with all that shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't miss analysis, opinions, and news streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Keyshawn Nixon was asked about the good attendance of the Packers at OTAs. He said this.
I feel like we let a team off the hook last year in the playoffs, and we know that. And everybody on this team here for a mission, and we ready to win a Super Bowl. So we all here locked in, and it showed that we ain't nothing to play with. They'll be ready.
We thought we'd let a team off the hook. That is the kind of thing that has a team motivated to kick ass and take names. A young team, a hungry team. And that can go multiple directions. It can make a team feel entitled. Hey, we were better than that team. We let them off the hook. And you can coast and you can go, hey, look, next year when we get our opportunity, we know we're going to take advantage of it. You know that? Because we've seen the Packers over the years in that exact same position, and they haven't been able to take advantage of that opportunity. Or you can do what this team is apparently doing and using it to lock in, or locked on if you prefer. And I do. To have everyone there, and Matt LaFleur talked about it, the importance of having your quarterback there. We're not gonna go there. We're not gonna go there. But it is interesting. 2 years now, Matt LaFleur has glowed about how important it is to have your quarterback at OTAs. That 2 years in a row, a certain other quarterback who had missed a couple OTAs now thinks it's vital that he's at OTAs, and yet his biggest defenders don't seem to think it was a big deal that he missed those. Anyway, I don't want to get sidetracked on that. You have to either learn from it to grow from it, or you use it as an excuse. This team is not using it as an excuse. They have come out focused, locked into the task at hand, and motivated by an understanding, by a confidence that they have that they are as good as any of these other teams, that they can beat any team that they face on a given day, and that even if you play better than them over the balance of the game, that a 2 or 3 minute stretch can end your season. that one mistake here or one mistake there is enough. That at that level, when we're talking about Super Bowls on the line, all it takes is one play. And that you aren't crushed by the overwhelming fear of that. That you're not afraid to make that mistake, but that you are buoyed by the notion that your team is good enough to be in that position and to welcome that challenge and to say, next time, we will be ready for it. And I think this team is going to come out absolutely blazing. They are going to come out focused, dialed. Jordan Love, he's at OTAs, not worried about the contract, throwing darts all over the field. The offense, year 2 with this core, new defense and Jeff Hafley that guys are excited about, more aggressive style. The vibes right now are as high as they've been in a long time. And it can't go unsaid that Matt LaFleur deserves so much credit for that. Just think about what he's done in a short period of time in Green Bay. He shows up in 2019, a toxic culture. He turns it around in one off season. All the guys, the veterans, to a man, talk about the amount of fun that they had that season, the difference that they felt, the joy that they played football with again that they had lost. That's Brian Bulaga. That's David Bakhtiari. That's Aaron Rodgers. That's new guys like Zadarius Smith and Preston Smith that they'd never experienced anything like that. Now you go through the trials and the tribulations. You go through 2020 and 2021. You fail. And that's going to happen. But you turn that team where you have a Super Bowl winning coach fired during the season and you go 3 straight 13-win seasons. You steer the ship through the tumultuous waters of an all-pro, the best receiver in the game, demanding a trade. A 4-time MVP demanding a trade. Working through a reset of the roster. By the way, the reset happened in 2022, not 2023. You bring in a new quarterback. You have to reset the culture again because Aaron Rodgers is not in the building. And you get that group to buy in immediately. Even when they were struggling, they never quit. They kept working and they got the details right. And when they did, they clicked in a way that none of us thought would ever be possible in one season. And certainly did not think it would be possible when we watched this team in October. And then now to reset it again, another crushing playoff defeat. This incredibly young team that went from really fun story in the second half after, this is what we thought, they suck in the first half, to keep the train on the tracks, to keep the transportation metaphors going. And then in this offseason, to go, okay, now it's time to go again with a new nucleus. This is not easy to do, folks. This is not just like snap your fingers and you're good to go, where you have to empower this young group while also riding that fine line of not over-empowering them, of not over-boosting their confidence to the point where they just feel like they've already ascended, that they've already earned it, that they've already said, hey, look, we're here, you have to reckon with us now, before they've actually earned that. It's an incredibly difficult thing to do, and it is a credit to Matt LaFleur. It is a credit to the leadership on this team, to guys like Elton Jenkins and Kenny Clark and Preston Smith and Jordan Love and Jaden Reed, who we found out right away last year was a veteran leader on this team as a rookie. Just because he wasn't a rookie or wasn't a veteran doesn't mean he wasn't a veteran leader, because he was. And to have that is such a credit to the leadership, a credit to Brian Gutekunst, the kinds of players that they brought in led them to this moment. And I can't wait to watch it. Now, what are we actually seeing on the field? What can we take away? What is happening? We got our first glimpse of the Packers. So we'll take some nuggets, see what we can learn and glean here. That's next on Locked On Packers. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and now it's also available on the Amazon Fire TV in the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today now available on the free Fire TV channels app. It's early in the OTA process, and so I want that to be upfront, and it's very important that everyone understands that. I'm not worried about who's on first or who's on second. I don't care who, first string, second string, that thing does not matter to me. I want to know where guys are lining up. Who is doing what? Oh, Josh Jacobs is taking some kickoff return snaps. Marshawn Lloyd is taking some kickoff return snaps. That's going to make my ears perk up a little bit. Oh, Anthony Johnson Jr. is running with the first team, not Javon Bullard straight away. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, Jordan Morgan played right tackle and left tackle. No guard for now. That one is particularly interesting because it makes the most sense, right? Left tackle is his position. If you're going to have him change positions, there's two schools of thought here. Either let him play right tackle, which is a tackle but flipped, or left guard where you get to keep the footwork but just slide down a position. Right guard would be the hardest position for him to change to of the four that they think he can play. And so I think for the moment, Sean Rhyan is safe, though Royce Newman is getting some work in there. Royce Newman is not an NFL player. But it did catch my attention that Elton Jenkins getting some run at center, which makes you go, okay, Rasheed Walker starts playing really well. Josh Myers not playing so great. If that happens, maybe you move Elton Jenkins to center and you slide Jordan Morgan in there at left guard where he gets to stay on the left side, his more comfortable side. And is that an easier transition for him than trying to move to right tackle and move Zach Tom to center? Potentially. And we've actually seen Elton Jenkins play center in the NFL. So there's that benefit too. That is one of those things that stood out. Another one. It was Quay Walker and Isaiah McDuffie with the linebackers in that first group. That's not surprising. But then when Edgerrin Cooper came on, he came on for Quay, not for Isaiah McDuffie. And that was the part that I thought was weird all along. It's like, okay, Quay Walker's best position is Will. Edgerrin Cooper's best position is Will. Tyron Hopper's best position is also probably Will. So who's playing the Mike linebacker? And where does Edgerrin Cooper play if he's going to play right away? Is it going to be next to Isaiah McDuffie? I mean, maybe. If Edgerrin Cooper is better than Quay Walker. But then what? That one's a little weird to me. I mean, it makes sense because Walker is a Will and Cooper is a Will. I think Cooper can be a Mike linebacker. Maybe they don't want to have him take that responsibility on right away if they think that's going to be too big a transition based on what he was asked to do in college to now. But that one caught my attention. In that same part of the field, that first front had TJ Slaton and Kenny Clark in it, not Kenny Clark and Devontae Wyatt, which means Kenny Clark as the more three-tech interior penetrator and TJ Slaton playing the nose. Now, the reason I find that to be interesting is they must think TJ Slaton is a better pass rusher than we've seen so far, though I think he's shown some nice things there. But what it also signals to me is while they want to be a penetrating, get up the field defense, which Kenny Clark can do, by the way, and I think he's going to eat this season, they also understand that you have to be able to stop the run from nickel. So you need some bigger bodies out there. If you're going to play nickel and you only have like 280-pound Colby Wooden, who by all accounts looks bigger, and Devontae Wyatt, that's not enough beef to stop the run. on first and second down. So you have to be able to do both. Now, Kenny Clark's versatility allows you to be able to do that. In passing situations, it's going to be probably him and Wyatt along the interior. It may not be Kenny Clark at all. You may be looking at a situation where they're trying to use him heavy on early downs, and then you can get a NASCAR package out there. I mean, one of the reasons why Eric Armstead was so good for the 49ers is he could play end, he could play tackle, he could play outside, he could play inside. Well, Lucas Van Ness can do that. Well, Carl Brooks can do that. Colby Wooden can potentially do that. So, and now that all these guys are in the same room, that makes it a little bit more interesting as well. Also, Kingsley Enagbare, just like full go, full send. I mean, we talked about this a couple weeks ago when we found out, it turned out he didn't have a full tear of that ACL, didn't have ACL surgery. We're going, oh, huh? But it's not just true. He's like out there doing stuff. No sleeve on the knee even. That's crazy. So these are all things we're going to monitor, a lot more things that we'll monitor as we move forward here through OTAs. I don't want to take, broad sweeping things, but we'll set the expectations here. We say, okay, we're seeing this. Now we'll see how this progresses. We'll see how it grows. We'll see how it changes. And it's going to be a fun off season. Back tomorrow, much more here as we chase the Packers all off season. Follow me on Twitter, Peter_Bukowski. Follow the podcast on Twitter, Locked On Packers. Like us on Facebook, subscribe to the podcast, iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you find podcasts, you will find Locked On Packers. Right now, there is an issue with the Amazon RSS feed. They are working on it. This is not our problem. This is their problem. Go check us out on other platforms. We are there, I promise you. Go check us out on YouTube. But there is an issue that we know about, that they know about, that they are trying to fix. Again, this is their issue. And so please be patient with us on that one. Use iTunes, use Spotify, use a different podcast platform if you can for the moment. And wherever you get podcasts, you will find Locked On Packers, again, except Amazon right now. That's going to be fixed. Go subscribe to us on our YouTube page and our socials. Locked On Packers on Instagram, Locked On Packers on TikTok, so you can stay Locked On Packers.